The classroom clock showed 2:45 p.m. on a normal Tuesday afternoon. Mr. Kevin Harris stood in front of the whiteboard, his hand holding a marker as he explained the American Civil War to his ninth grade history class. The afternoon sun came through the tall windows, and dust particles floated in the light. The room was quiet, except for the teacher's voice and the sound of pens writing on paper. Emma Foster sat in the third row, her eyes focused on the notes she was writing. She was a thin girl with brown hair tied in a simple ponytail. At 14 years old, Emma was not the loudest student in class. She did not raise her hand often or try to be the center of attention. But the other students knew her as someone who was kind and calm. She never made fun of anyone, and she always helped classmates who struggled with the work. Mr. Harris was talking about ordinary soldiers who fought in the war. He said something that made Emma look up from her notes. He said, "Sometimes, courage is not about being the strongest or the fastest. Courage is about doing what is right, even when you are afraid." Ordinary people did extraordinary things because they believed in something important. Emma thought about these words. She wrote them down in her notebook. Outside the school building, the sky was blue and clear. Birds flew in small groups. Cars drove on the streets below. Everything was normal and peaceful. Nothing seemed different from any other day in the city of Lincoln, Nebraska. Then, at exactly 2:47 p.m., the sky changed. A shadow fell across the classroom. It was not the shadow of a cloud. The shadow was too large, too dark, and too unnatural. Mr. Harris stopped talking. He looked at the windows. The other students looked up from their desks. The shadow grew darker. A sound came from outside. It was a deep, low sound that shook the air. Books on the classroom shelves moved slightly. A cup of water on the teacher's desk rippled. The sound was like nothing anyone in that room had ever heard before. It was not the sound of a plane or a helicopter or any machine that humans had made. Everyone stood up. Some students went to the windows to look outside. What they saw made them scream. Above the school, 3 enormous shapes hung in the sky. They were ships. Their sides were dark metal that looked like no material anyone had ever seen. The ships were the size of buildings, maybe larger. They did not move like planes. They moved slowly and with perfect control. The sound they made shook the ground. "Everyone away from the windows!" Mr. Harris shouted. His voice was loud and urgent. Students ran from the windows. Some ran toward the door. Others hid under their desks. The scream of students came from other classrooms. Alarms began to ring throughout the school building. The voice of the principal came over the speaker system, but her words were confused and did not make sense. Emma did not run. She stood still and watched the ships through the window. Her heart was beating fast, but her face was calm. She saw one of the enormous ships move lower in the sky, heading toward the school building. She could see details now. The ship had many windows and lights. It looked like it was designed to land, not to fly past and disappear. The ship landed in the open field next to the school. The ground shook. A deep sound came from the ship, like doors opening. Emma watched as the ship's side opened and a ramp came down. Figures began to come out of the ship. These figures were tall and strange. They were not human. They were at least 7 feet tall, maybe taller. Their bodies were covered in what looked like armor or thick skin. They had 4 arms instead of 2. Their heads were different from human heads. They did not have hair. Their eyes were large and bright, colored like gold. They moved with perfect control and purpose. Each one carried a weapon that looked like nothing from Earth. There were about 20 of these creatures. They moved in straight lines toward the school building. They did not seem to be in a hurry. They moved like soldiers who knew they were more powerful than anything they would face. The creatures reached the front door of the school. They did not stop. They did not knock. One of them touched the door, and it crashed open. They entered the school building. In the classroom, Mr. Harris pushed all his students toward the back of the room. He locked the door and pushed a desk in front of it. The students huddled together, some crying, some praying, all of them afraid. "Everyone stay calm," Mr. Harris said, but his voice shook with fear. "Just stay here and stay quiet." Emma could hear the creatures moving through the school building. Their footsteps were heavy. They came up the stairs. They moved from classroom to classroom. Teachers tried to lock their doors. The creatures did not care. Door after door was broken open. The creatures came to the classroom where Mr. Harris and his students waited. The door was locked. The desk was in front of it. For a moment, there was silence. Then the door exploded inward. The desk flew across the room. The students screamed. The creatures entered the classroom. There were 4 of them. They spread out in the room, their weapons held steady. The tallest one came to the front. This one was different. It wore armor that was different from the others, marked with symbols and colored in a way that showed rank or importance. This was a leader. Its name was Vex. Vex looked at Mr. Harris and the students with his large gold eyes. He did not show any emotion. His face did not change. He looked at the classroom like he was looking at things that did not matter much. Vex opened his mouth and sounds came out. The sounds were strange and harsh, but somehow the students understood the meaning. His words came to their minds as if translated automatically. "I am Vex, commander of the Krell. Your planet has been selected for integration into the Krell Empire. You will provide labor and resources. You will follow Krell law. You have no choice in this matter. I will now speak to your world's leadership to inform them of their surrender. You will tell me where these leaders can be found." Mr. Harris stepped forward. His hands were shaking, but he tried to speak with strength. "We will not surrender. We will fight. You cannot take our world." Vex did not respond to this. He simply looked at Mr. Harris like he was looking at an insect. His eyes moved around the classroom. He saw the drawings on the walls. He saw the books on the shelves. He saw the desks and chairs and all the things that filled a normal classroom. His eyes stopped on something. It was a drawing that hung on the wall. It was made by one of the students. It showed a family of 4 people holding hands. Below the drawing, words were written. "I love you, Mom and Dad." Vex stared at this drawing for a long moment. His head tilted slightly. Something seemed to confuse him about what he was seeing. He turned and looked directly at Emma. His gold eyes studied her. He waited. Emma took a breath and stepped forward. Emma Foster stood straight and looked directly at Vex. Her legs were shaking a little, but her voice was steady and calm. She was only 14 years old, but she spoke with certainty. "My name is Emma," she said. "I want to know why you are pointing weapons at children." The other students looked at Emma with surprise. Mr. Harris put his hand on her shoulder, as if to pull her back. But Emma did not move. She kept her eyes on the alien commander. Vex tilted his head again. He made sounds with his mouth, harsh and strange. The sounds became words in everyone's mind. "You are children. This is correct. You are not strong enough to provide significant labor. You may be liquidated." The word liquidated made everyone in the room understand that this creature was talking about killing them. "Wait," Emma said. She raised her hand slightly. "Why do you want to take our planet?" Vex looked at Emma for a long moment. It was clear that this alien was not used to being questioned by young humans. But he did not kill her. He simply answered her question. "Your planet has water. It has minerals. It has land that can be used for work camps. Your species can be trained to work. This is why we take your planet. The Krell need resources. We take what we need. But we have families here," Emma said. "We have people we love. We have homes and lives. You cannot just take all that. Vex made a sound that might have been a laugh, but it was cold and without humor. Love is not important. Families are not important. We, the Krell, are created by the Empire. We have no families. We have no love. We have only duty to the Empire. Your attachments to each other make you weak. When we control your planet, we will remove these attachments. You will work better when you do not care about anyone but the Empire. Emma shook her head. That is not true. Love does not make us weak. It makes us strong. That is not logical, Vex said. But he did not leave. He did not give an order to attack. He stood there, and something in his posture showed that he was interested in what Emma was saying. Emma took a small step forward. The soldiers behind Vex raised their weapons, but Vex held up one of his 4 hands. The soldiers lowered their weapons slightly. Can I ask you a question? Emma said. Vex made a sound that showed agreement. Do you ever think about where you come from? Do you ever wonder about your family? Vex did not answer for several seconds. When he finally spoke, his voice was different. I was created by the Krell genetic program. There is no family. There is only the Empire. But before you were in the Empire, did someone create you? Did someone make you? Emma asked. That is not important, Vex said. But his answer was not as strong as before. Emma pointed at the drawing on the wall, the one with the family holding hands and the words about love. That drawing was made by a student who lives in this building. She made it because her parents work hard to take care of her. Her father works at a factory 10 hours a day. Her mother works as a nurse at a hospital. They work hard not for money or power. They work hard because they love their daughter. They want her to be safe and happy. That is what love does. It makes people strong. It makes them work harder and fight harder and never give up. The younger of the 4 soldiers took a step forward. He was looking at Vex. There was something in his movement that showed he was listening to Emma's words with more than just his ears. Vex looked at the soldier, then back at Emma. Why does this matter? These humans will work for us. Their feelings about their families will not change their usefulness. It will change everything, Emma said. If you take someone's family from them, they will be desperate to get them back. They will resist. They will fight in ways that weapons cannot stop. But if you let families stay together, if you show that you understand that families are important, then maybe they will listen to you. Maybe they will cooperate. Mr. Harris watched Emma speak. He saw something in this young student that he had not noticed before. She was afraid, yes, but her mind was working fast. She was thinking about survival in a way that most adults could not. Other students began to understand what Emma was doing. They watched her face. They listened to her words. Slowly, they stopped being only afraid. They started to hope. Vex walked slowly across the classroom. He looked at the books on the shelves. He looked at the drawings on the walls. He looked at the photographs that students had brought from home, pictures of their families. He looked at the desk where Emma sat, and he saw her notebook filled with her handwriting and her thoughts. Your species draws pictures, Vex said. Your species writes words about feelings. Your species keeps objects that remind you of other individuals. These things are not logical. They do not provide food or shelter or strength. They do provide strength, Emma said. The strongest things in the universe might not be weapons or ships. The strongest things might be the connections between people. The things we do for each other. Vex turned back to face Emma. His large gold eyes studied her carefully. The soldiers stood very still. The classroom was completely silent. You are 14 years old, Vex said. It was a statement, not a question. Yes, Emma said. You are not trained in combat. You have no weapons. You have no power, Vex continued. No, I do not. Emma agreed. Yet you stand in front of me and speak without fear. You try to make me understand ideas that are not logical. This is strange, Vex said. I am afraid, Emma said honestly. But I have to try. You came here to take my world. You came here planning to take my family apart. I have to do something. Even if I am just a girl, I have to try. The younger soldier made a sound. It was not words. It was something else. A sound that showed emotion. Vex made a gesture with his hand, and the soldier became silent. We will speak more, Vex said to Emma. Your words are not logical, but they are interesting. We will see if your ideas have any value. Vex turned to the other soldiers. He made sounds in his harsh language. The soldiers lowered their weapons completely. They did not point them at the students anymore. Mr. Harris slowly let out a breath. Emma sat back down, her legs finally giving up their strength. She had said the words she needed to say. Now she would have to wait and see if they had changed anything. Outside the windows, more alien ships could be seen in the sky. But they did not attack. They simply waited. Vex did not leave the classroom. Instead, he sat down in the back of the room, near the door. His 3 soldiers stood behind him, their weapons lowered to their sides. The younger soldier watched Emma with curious eyes. Emma felt strange. The alien commander was sitting in her classroom, waiting to listen to her speak. The fear in the room was still there, but it was different now. It was not the fear of immediate death. It was the fear of whether her words would matter. Emma stood up again. She looked at her classmates. Many of them were still scared, but they were also paying attention to her. She took a breath. Let me tell you about humans, Emma began. I know you said that we are weak because we care about our families. But that is the thing that makes us strong. That is the thing you do not understand. Vex tilted his head. He was listening. Emma pointed to a boy in the classroom named Marcus. Marcus, can you tell the commander about your mother? Marcus was surprised, but he nodded. His voice was quiet at first, then grew stronger. My mother works 2 jobs. She works during the day at a restaurant, and at night she works at a store. She does this so that my little brother and I can go to school. She gets only 5 hours of sleep many nights, but she never complains. She tells me that she does it because she loves us. She tells me that our education is more important than her rest. Emma nodded. Your mother does something amazing every day. She does not do it for money or power. She does it because she loves you. This is something the Krell do not have. Another student, a girl named Sophie, spoke without being asked. My father was sick last year. Very sick. The doctor said he might die. My mother stayed in the hospital with him for 3 weeks. She did not leave his side. She held his hand and talked to him and helped him understand that she was there with him. After many weeks, he got better. But my mother was there for every single day, even when she was tired and scared. Vex made a sound. It might have been confusion. Emma continued. This is called sacrifice. It is when you give something important to you to help someone you love. Sacrifice makes humans powerful in ways that weapons cannot measure. Mr. Harris stepped forward. He had not planned to speak, but something in Emma's words gave him courage too. I have taught history for 12 years. In all of human history, ordinary people have done extraordinary things. They did these things not for power or glory. They did them to protect people they loved. A man will run into a burning building to save his child. A mother will face an army to protect her children. A teacher will stand in front of a shooter to protect students. Vex's gold eyes moved from speaker to speaker. His head was tilted in the same position as before. He was processing what he was hearing. Emma pulled out her phone. She had to explain that it was a communication device. She showed Vex pictures stored in the phone. Pictures of students with their families. A boy and his grandfather fishing in a lake. A girl hugging her little sister. A family sitting together at dinner, all smiling at the camera. These are memories, Emma said. We save these images so we remember the people we love. We remember the good moments with them. When we are sad or afraid, we look at these pictures and remember that we are loved. This makes us feel strong even when things are difficult. The younger soldier moved closer. He was looking at the pictures with great interest. These individuals are connected to the humans who own this device, the soldier said. It was the first time he had spoken directly to Emma. His voice was harsh but less cold than Vex's voice. Yes, Emma said. They are connected. And that connection is the strongest thing in my life. The soldier looked at Vex. He made a low sound, like a question without words. Vex stood up. He walked slowly through the classroom. He stopped at a desk where a small photograph sat. It was a picture of a baby. This is a very young human, Vex said. That is my little brother, a girl named Lisa said. She stood up. His name is Tommy. He is 3 years old. I love him. I would protect him from anything. If someone tried to hurt him, I would do whatever I could to stop them. You are only slightly larger than this small human, Vex said. You are not strong enough to protect him from a trained soldier. That does not matter, Lisa said, and her voice was firm. I would try anyway, because he is my brother and I love him. I would fight with everything I have. I would not give up. Something changed in Vex's posture. His shoulders moved slightly. It might have been the smallest sign of emotion. Emma saw this change. She pressed forward with her words. Your soldiers came here expecting us to be afraid. We are afraid. But fear does not stop us when we are fighting for the people we love. That is the difference between Krell and humans. You were created by an empire. We were created by other humans who loved us. From our very first moment of life, we know what love is. We know what it means to be protected by someone stronger. We spend our whole lives learning how to protect others. That is what we do. Emma moved to stand in front of the class. If you take this planet, you will have to control billions of humans. Each one of them will be thinking about their family that you separated them from. Each one will be remembering the people they love. And humans will do incredible things to get back to those people. They will work harder than you expect. They will resist in ways you cannot predict. They will never stop fighting, because fighting is in our nature when we are protecting what we love. Mr. Harris added, throughout human history, the greatest warriors were not the strongest or the fastest. The greatest warriors were those who fought to protect their families and their homes. A mother protecting her child is more dangerous than a trained soldier protecting nothing. The younger soldier stepped very close to Vex. He made sounds in the harsh Krell language. Vex made sounds in return. They spoke to each other for several minutes while Emma and the other students watched. Finally, Vex turned back to Emma. My younger officer has shown me something. He has kept this object his entire existence as a soldier. Vex held out something small. It was a crystal, clear and beautiful, glowing with a soft light. This crystal belonged to the genetic creator before I was removed from the creation program. When I was transferred to military training, I was permitted to keep it because it has no practical value. But I have carried it for 8 years. I do not know why. Your words help me understand why. This crystal is a memory. It is a connection to something that no longer exists. It is the closest thing I have to what you call love. Emma felt tears on her face. She had done it. She had made this alien commander understand. Vex continued, if we conquer your planet, we will be fighting not against weapons or technology. We will be fighting against something far more powerful. We will be fighting against billions of humans whose connection to their families will make them more dangerous than any army. Your species is not weak because of love. Your species is strong because of it. This is something I did not expect to learn today. Vex held the crystal up to the light coming through the classroom window. The crystal glowed brighter. He stared at it for a long moment. No one in the classroom moved or spoke. Even the other 3 soldiers were still. The younger soldier, whose name was Kes, moved close to Emma. He was very tall, towering above her, but his movements were gentle. He held out his weapon and placed it on the ground at Emma's feet. "I understand now," Kes said in his harsh voice. "What you say is true." Emma did not touch the weapon. She simply looked at Kes. The other students watched this moment with amazement. Vex lowered the crystal. He made sounds in the harsh Krell language. All 3 soldiers heard his words. The older 2 soldiers made sounds that showed surprise or disagreement. But Vex spoke again, louder and more commanding, and the soldiers became silent. Vex turned to face Emma and all the students. His posture had changed. He was no longer standing like a military commander. He stood more like someone who had received a shock. "I have come to a conclusion," Vex said. His translated words came into everyone's minds. "The Krell have conquered many worlds. We have taken many species as workers, but we have never encountered a species with this particular strength. The Krell are very efficient soldiers. We are strong and obedient, but we have never had the thing you call family bonds. We have never had the protection that comes from loving another being. This has made us powerful in some ways and weak in others." Mr. Harris stood beside Emma. He was listening carefully to every word. Vex continued, "I have calculated the cost of conquering Earth. My military computers have analyzed human behavior. They predict that if we take your planet, humans will resist in ways that seem illogical but are very consistent. Mothers will sacrifice themselves to protect children. Workers will refuse to work if their families are harmed. Young people will rebel against our authority if their parents are hurt. The cost of maintaining order on Earth would be greater than any resources we could take from this planet." Emma felt hope growing in her chest. Vex went on, "But there is another option. The Krell need allies. We have conquered through military power, but we have no real friends. Other species fear us, but they do not respect us. They obey us, but they do not understand us. You humans have shown me something different. You have shown me that loyalty based on love is stronger than loyalty based on fear. I believe this is true." The older soldiers made harsh sounds of disagreement. Vex held up his hand, and they were silent. "I am making a decision," Vex announced. "It is a decision that goes against Krell military tradition. It is a decision that the High Command may not approve. But I am a field commander, and I have seen something that cannot be ignored. Earth will not be conquered. Instead, I will propose an alliance." Emma gasped. The other students looked at each other with surprise and hope. "What does that mean?" Mr. Harris asked. "It means," Vex said, "that the Krell will establish formal relations with your planet's leadership. We will not take your resources. We will not force your people into labor camps. Instead, we will trade. We will share knowledge and technology. We will form a military alliance where humans and Krell work together against common enemies. And we will do this because I have learned that humans are too valuable to conquer. You are better as allies than as slaves." Kes moved to stand beside Vex. It was a statement of support. The other 3 soldiers looked at each other. One of them lowered his weapon completely. The other 2 followed moments later. "There will be resistance to this decision," Vex said. "The High Command will have to approve this change in policy. But I will present the evidence. I will tell them what I learned in this classroom. I will tell them that the Krell have been wrong about human weakness. Humans are strong in ways we do not fully understand." Emma stepped forward. "Will you really do this? Will you really not conquer us?" "No conquest," Vex confirmed. Alliance instead. This is more valuable anyway. The Krell do not have what you have. We have lost something important a long time ago when we became dependent on the Empire. You still have it. We want to understand it better. We want to have allies that understand us, even when we do not fully understand ourselves. What happens now? Emma asked. Now I will communicate with the other Krell ships in your system. I will inform them that Earth is not to be conquered. I will prepare to travel to your United Nations, the place where your world's leaders meet. I will explain to them what I have learned here today, and I will ask them to accept an alliance between our species. Mr. Harris moved forward. He extended his hand toward Vex, a human gesture of respect and friendship. Vex looked at the hand. He had learned about human customs from the soldiers who had studied Earth before the invasion. He understood what this gesture meant. Vex used one of his 4 hands to touch Mr. Harris's hand. It was not exactly a handshake, but it was a connection. You are brave to do this, Mr. Harris said. No, Vex replied. It is you who are brave. You stood in front of me to protect your students. You had no weapons. You had no power, but you stood firm. This is bravery. The Krell understand conquest and control, but we do not understand this kind of strength. We will learn from you. We will learn what it means to have connection and loyalty that is not forced. Cass made a sound that might have been Krell laughter. The younger soldier seemed pleased with Vex's decision. We will also need guides, Vex said. We will need humans who can explain our world to others and explain your world to us. I believe this young one, Emma Foster, should be one of those guides. And perhaps her teacher, Mr. Harris. You both have shown intelligence and courage. Emma felt her heart racing. She was 14 years old, and an alien commander was asking her to help with diplomatic relations between species. I will try my best, Emma said. That is all anyone can ask, Vex replied. Outside the classroom, the other soldiers throughout the school were receiving Vex's commands. The weapons were being lowered. The invasion had become something else entirely. It had become the beginning of a friendship between 2 species that understood each other in ways neither had expected. Students began to open their classroom doors and look out. Teachers stopped hiding. The terror that had filled the school was slowly being replaced by confusion, and then Hope. Emma stood by the window and looked out at the alien ships in the sky above Lincoln, Nebraska. Everything had changed in just a few hours. And it had all changed because she had decided to talk instead of hide. 3 weeks later, Emma sat at her desk in the same classroom. The room looked almost normal now, except for the security cameras that had been installed, and the fact that there were now 2 empty chairs where desks had been moved to make room for a viewing screen. The school day proceeded like any other day, but nothing felt normal anymore. Mr. Harris was teaching, but not about history. He was teaching about the Krell, about their culture, about the agreement that had been signed between Earth and the Krell Empire. The entire world was learning about this incredible change. News channels broadcast nothing else for weeks. Scientists debated whether the alliance was real. Politicians argued about what it meant for humanity's future, but Emma understood what had happened. She had lived through it in real time. The United Nations had accepted the Krell's offer of alliance. Vex had presented evidence and data that showed why conquest would have been too costly. He had explained the concept of human family bonds to the high command of the Krell Empire. More importantly, he had brought Emma and Mr. Harris to speak at the United Nations. Emma, a 14-year-old girl from Nebraska, had stood in front of the world's leaders and explained how love and family bonds made humans strong. The alliance had been approved unanimously. Now, 3 weeks after the initial contact, 3 massive embassy buildings were being constructed in New York, Moscow, and Beijing. Krell diplomats were arriving on Earth. Human diplomats were being trained to travel to the Krell stations in space. The Krell were sharing technology that would transform human society. Medicine, energy production, transportation. All of it was about to change. And it had started because Emma had simply spoken truth to an alien commander. A notification came to Mr. Harris's communication device. He checked it and smiled at Emma. The smile said that he had received what she already knew was coming. After class ended, Emma walked out of the school building and found Vex waiting in the parking lot. The alien commander was quite familiar now to the students and teachers of Lincoln High School. People had stopped being afraid and started being curious. Vex had become a frequent visitor to the school, learning about human education and human culture. Kess was with Vex. The younger Krell officer had requested assignment to Earth as a permanent liaison officer. He had become friends with several of Emma's classmates. He attended lunch in the school cafeteria and asked many questions about human food, which he could not eat but found fascinating to study. Emma Foster, Vex greeted her. His voice was still harsh, but Emma had learned to recognize warmth in his tone. I have received a communication from the High Command. I wanted to inform you directly. What did they say? Emma asked. They have approved my new military strategy. They have decided that all Krell military commanders will now be required to study human culture and human family structures. They believe that if we understand humans better, we can become better allies and better strategists. Your influence has reached beyond this single planet. Emma did not know what to say. She felt small and large at the same time. Small because she was just a girl, only 14 years old. Large because her words had changed something at the level of an entire empire. I also wanted to tell you something personal, Vex continued. He held out the crystal that he had shown Emma in the classroom. I have decided to learn about the genetic creator who made this crystal. The Krell are beginning a program to recover the personal histories of our genetic creators. We believe this is important. We believe it is connected to what you taught me about love and family. Emma took the crystal carefully. It glowed in her hand. It was beautiful. I want you to keep this, Vex said. It represents the connection between our two species. It represents that an old soldier can learn something new. It represents that the greatest strength in the universe might not be military power, but understanding between different beings. Cash made a sound that Emma had learned meant approval or agreement. Emma returned the crystal to Vex. I cannot keep this. It is important to you, but maybe you could tell me about your genetic creator sometime. I would like to hear that story. Vex made a sound that was definitely Krell laughter. I believe I would like to tell you that story. Perhaps we could arrange for a time when you are not in school. I could show you images from before the Krell became the Krell. I could show you when we still had family structures like yours. I would really like that. Emma said. Marcus and Sophie and several other students came out of the school building and saw Emma talking with the Krell commander. They were not afraid. They waved and came closer. Within moments, Emma was surrounded by classmates asking Vex questions about Krell technology and Krell culture. Vex answered all of their questions patiently. This was new for him. The Krell were not accustomed to patience or explanation. They were accustomed to order and obedience. But Vex was learning that sometimes the best way to be a leader was to answer questions from young people and help them understand. That evening, Emma sat at home with her family. Her mother and father and little brother Tommy sat with her at the dinner table. The television was playing a news report about the Krell Alliance. Emma's mother had her hand on Emma's shoulder the entire time they ate. "We are so proud of you," Emma's mother said. "Do you understand what you did? You saved our planet." Emma shook her head. "I just talked. I just tried to help someone understand something that I knew was true. I could not let them think that families did not matter. But that is exactly what saved us, Emma's father said. You understood something that most soldiers and politicians did not understand. You understood that love is a strength, not a weakness. You understood that when you fight for the people you love, you can do impossible things. That is what you taught that alien commander. Tommy, who was only 3 years old, did not understand most of what was being said. But he climbed into Emma's lap and hugged her. Emmy is strong, he said simply. Emma hugged her little brother tight. This was what it was all about. This was the simple truth that had changed everything. The love between family members was the strongest thing in the universe. Over the next weeks and months, Emma became known as the girl who prevented an alien invasion through conversation instead of combat. Schools around the world assigned essays about her actions. Children learned about her in history classes. News organizations interviewed her constantly, but Emma tried to stay normal. She went to school. She did her homework. She spent time with her friends. She learned from Mr. Harris about history and about the power of ordinary people to create extraordinary change. One afternoon, 4 months after the initial contact, Emma was sitting in her history class when Mr. Harris asked her to come to the front of the classroom. Emma, he said, I want to tell you something. I have been teaching for 12 years. I have taught about great leaders and great moments in history. I have taught my students about the American Civil War and the Civil Rights Movement and the space program and all the important moments in human history. But I want you all to know that today, we are living in one of the most important moments in human history. We are living in the moment when humanity made first contact with alien life. And we are living in the moment when a 14-year-old girl from Lincoln, Nebraska, chose conversation over conflict. Emma felt her face turn red with embarrassment. I am not saying this because Emma is special or because she is different from you, Mr. Harris continued. I am saying this because Emma did what any of you could do. She spoke truth. She helped someone understand something that was important. She chose courage in a moment when fear would have been easy. We all have that ability. We all have the power to change the world by choosing to speak truth and choosing to help others understand. That is the lesson of what happened here. Emma looked around the classroom. Her classmates were looking at her, but they were also looking at each other. They were thinking about what they could do. They were thinking about the power that each of them possessed. And Emma realized that her greatest accomplishment was not changing an alien empire. It was showing ordinary people that they had more power than they thought they did. It was showing the world that sometimes the greatest strength is not in weapons or money or military power. Sometimes the greatest strength is in a young person who is brave enough to speak truth and help someone understand what makes humans worth protecting.